Alright, so I'm no video editor. I think I said this was going to be part 4, or it might be part 5. I'm a little off. I'm not good at making videos, so if anyone wants to professionally make videos, hey, come hit me up. I'm going to talk about the church today. You know, I'd been to church many times in my life, and I've been looking for the answers, and I kept feeling like God Himself was, leading me out of the church. One time I'd been to church for 6-7 months. I always seemed to come back on Easter. There's something so powerful about that weekend that without even fully understanding what it was, it just would always draw me. I mean, like a magnet. I was baptized several times on Easter, and I kept falling away from the church, and I didn't understand why. And that day that I was talking about where I hugged Father, I actually believe I hugged him. He actually showed me that the church is not what I think it is. You look at when you walk into a church, you see a giant steeple. Well, you look at what the Babylonians used to create steeples as, and it was representative of the phallus that was cut off of and lost from the king. There's basically the king, the whore, and the son. I'm not going to use their names because fuck them. But you will need to know Tammuz, because he is the Antichrist. The same Antichrist that existed before Noah, the same Antichrist that existed after Noah. You're looking at the real Antichrist right there. It's Tammuz. He resides in the stars, just like many of these people do. They represent themselves by heavenly bodies. They're the fallen, the heavenly hosts that have fallen and not been cast down into the pit yet. These people, that's why they call them the prince of the powers of the air, is because that's where they reside, people. The things that you're seeing as aliens, these beings of light, you have to look at like Dome on the Rock, Phoenix Lights. These are not, I repeat, not aliens. These are not, USA spacecraft. These are demons. These are demons manifesting themselves as angels of light and trying to lure people. Many people are going to be deceived. If not for the sake of the elect, the entire world will be deceived, it says. Lucifer tried to approach my cousin. It was crazy. He came to me one day crying, and he was talking about a dream he had where an angel grabbed him by the hand and started to lead him away, and he led him up into the clouds, and then he dropped him because he said he wasn't ready. And as soon as he started telling me about that, Father put the image in my head, and I seen exactly what he's seen, except from a third perspective. And I seen that this was a false angel who mimicked wings that didn't move. His face actually looks like Natalie Portman. I'm not trying to bash Natalie Portman or anything, but it's a very feminine face on maybe like a 16-year-old Iraqi boy's frame. Lucifer is not some mighty thing. He's really not. His frame compared to like Michael, Christ, who's just a 6'5" beast of a creation. You know what I mean? A boss ass dude. He's not. Lucifer is not, and neither are the fallen. And there's 3 main of the fallen that are really attacking us, and they portray themselves as the king, the son, and the whore. The god. But these things don't have a sex. They're not built to reproduce like we are. The goddess, as we call her, Libertas, the thing that the United States is based on, the thing that's on our currency, represented by the phoenix. These are all things that represent her, and her power, her might. Tammuz is represented as the reborn Christ. They're going to sacrifice their own father, which I believe is Azazel, the right hand of Satan. I don't like to use these names, but you about got to, because it's, you look at who tortured Isaiah, you look at who tortured these people, it becomes who's really apparent who's in your life, and it's these same entities that were around, and they're not omnipotent. They go from door to door, they really do. And if you're one of the elect, you're one of the chosen, you will have a demonic spirit attached to you, and that demonic spirit will pursue you, never ending, to the point where you'll have conversations in your head saying, get out, stop, you're not welcome here anymore. You know what I mean? And this is all we can do, is recite those things, believe in the power of Christ, and believe that if we pray earnestly, we won't get to dictate what's going to happen. But how I pray is, Father, please change my heart. Help me love the things you love and hate the things you hate. And how I pray also is I just have earnest conversation. I talk to him like he's my dad. I talk to him like he's right here in the room. I tell him I love him all the time, and I earnestly mean it. I try to love him more than anything else in life by asking myself, what would he want? I confess my sins when they happen, and I desperately try to avoid them. One of the hardest is lust, being a 30-something-year-old guy. it's so hard, honestly. I really do need to pursue a healthy relationship in order to avoid that, because if you're not in a healthy relationship, taking care of those urges that Father put in you, he says go forth and multiply. Lust isn't a result of him. The perversion of lust is a result of Father. The perversion of lust is a result of Satan. He wants to turn it into, I need Cristal and billions and 16 girls in a limousine, And the truth is, no. You'll be much happier with one person and an earnest love that is dedicated and true. And that's hard to find in life right now, At my age, if you're not a slut, if you don't go to bars, if you don't believe in going to churches and things like that, you're just probably not going to find love. It's very hard. But about churches, I tried to go to church, and I kept getting these messages, leave, and I believe it was like 2005, several years ago. I've been getting visions off and on for years and years, and I just didn't know what they were about, They kind of go in one ear, out the other. You think about it, and you talk about it for a few months, and it's gone. The first one was I was in a suit of armor with no shield, no sword, and I was standing in this light, and I looked around me, and everyone in the church is all clammy, like they'd been buried, like they were already dead. And he told me, walk towards the light. And it was to leave the church. I didn't understand that at first, and then when I came to the Lord this time, I tried a couple times to go to different churches. And as soon as I would get in there, I would just notice, their pursuit to save. You don't save people. You share testimony. You don't get to save people. Christ saves. Father picks who is saved and who isn't. He sees hearts. He judges. We don't get to choose this. And, as much as your pastor wants to save people, he's in the wrong for doing so. And he's taken a role that has more responsibility than... I wouldn't want to be a pastor, people. Let's put it that way. I sat at this church and out on the highway here, out on 63. And I started to just get this weird vibe. I'd share my testimony, and everybody just wants to assume that if you share things like this, well, you're just an absolute lunatic. You know what I mean? Nobody. If I go to church every day and you don't, how could you possibly be, elect? How could you possibly be chosen? And the truth is, I don't know. I didn't pick this. You know what I mean? I'm just some loser from Iowa. That's all I am. You know what I mean? And I'm happy being that. You know what I mean? I've always been kind of one of those guys that I didn't say what would Jesus do. I used to say what would John Wayne do. You know what I mean? If a man's hurting a woman and you got to kick a door in and kick some ass and go to jail for it, well, that's the right thing to do. If a man's hurting a child or something like that, or you see abuse, it turns out that's exactly what Christ would do. What would Jesus do and what would John Wayne do in the movies are really fucking similar. You know what I mean? He's a true hero, a true man's man, and proud to be my king. But I kept asking him, do you want me to leave? I'm praying, do you want me to leave this church? And I wouldn't leave right away, you know what I mean? I'm real hesitant to who's sending me these messages, what thoughts, who's putting these thoughts in my head? Because I'm pretty sure there's, the duality is, like I said, is not as cut and dry as what we think. So I went out and I sat on this bench where many people had sat. It was a long 20-foot oak pew. And this pew, as I prayed, cracked underneath me, the entire thing. Now, I'm a fat kid, but when there was 20 people sitting on there, over a ton of people, my 250 pounds isn't going to break it. You know what I mean? And it cracked all the way through and all the way down. In that moment, I still didn't leave. I went out in the parking lot and I called my grandma and we started talking about, Father and what he wanted. And I quickly realized that maybe he didn't want me there. So I went home and I started looking up symbols. And the first one I looked up was the cross. And you see Babylonian symbols representing Tammuz, the first of the Antichrist, the mimics of Christ. And here he is carrying around a big T. Well, the truth is he wouldn't even pronounce this a T. That's a cross. He's carrying around a giant cross. And that's an old symbol. And then you look at the wafer that they give you in church. And it's a circle with the lines through it. It's a symbol of Baal. 4,000 year old proof. 3000 BC. They got stones that they dug up from Babylon. Still represent Baal. Still Satan worship, and they want you to put that wafer in your mouth and actually believe that that's what the Last Supper was about. No, it's not. The Last Supper is more about saying grace. It's about accepting that when you receive things in this world, no matter what it be, you're receiving it through Him. All goodness comes through Father, and another word for God should be goodness, because that's what He is. He showed me who Jesus Christ was that day. Jesus Christ. I saw an image of it was weird because it looked like Family Guy. Now, I'm not a huge Family Guy fan, honestly. So when I see that imagery, I'm like, so I see this giant robed figure. I see him reach into his heart and pull out this giant, glowing ball of red, that same coral, that color that he identified to me as the love his children have for him, and he has for his children. And I seen him rested upon the earth real gently, and it was so sad. You see the sacrifice he made. This is something directly from his heart. Christ is not like us. He is not created as a versatile being. He is a specific virtue, pure in it, and his strength is of that. The fact that virtue is a conquering virtue, the highest of all virtues of Father. He sits in his throne room, as is described in Revelation, under the green light, which is his light of judgment. You don't want to be in that room. I'm telling you, people, if you get there, drop, cry, pray, apologize. I'm telling you. You don't want to be in that room. You want to be basking in that red light, and you want to be around what Jesus Christ has to offer, which is the exact love that Father has. And he is so purely made in that's who he is. And I started to clearly see that we're not just human beings. We're actually children of God. We are eternal beings. We're children of God, and we're brothers to Christ. I call him Big Brother. I quit calling him Jesus and things like that. So when I talk to him, I talk to him as Big Brother. My big brother is going to set things straight, and Father's going to help him. It's that kind of personal relationship he wants, people. He's not hung up on you calling him a name or Lord or this. Oh, you're my master. No, man. No, it's a love that's much deeper than that. A love that's so deep that we can't even fathom it. It's so pure of heart that we can only learn. It may take eternity for me to walk and fall behind him. I kept debating why I was chosen. I'm not some great guy that made mistakes. I live the meagerest life in a little trailer in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, as you can see. It's full of holes. It's old. It's a 1969 trailer. I live on nothing at all, maybe $600 a month. And I just try to, enjoy walks and frisbee golf, things like that, getting out in nature with my dogs. A few video games, chatting with people around the world to see that people are all the same everywhere. I couldn't figure out why he'd chosen me, but the one thing I decided to accept was is that if it takes me eternity, and even if it's just me falling down and it gives him a smile one day, if that's why he allowed me to be this way, then I thank him, and I'll keep walking, and I'll keep picking myself up, and I realize that even in heaven I'm going to make mistakes. Nothing's going to go the way we think. A lot of people think heaven is going to be this place that's made for you. No. You got to realize you're in Father's house. His rules will apply. His rules will apply, and it's not your choice. So, on church, don't believe it. Don't walk into a room with a steeple and all these symbols and just believe that it's a Christian symbol because it's been used for a few thousand years. Look up the true history. Look up what they're saying. Listen to the people and what they're saying. Who do they believe saves? And if you're not following imagery and things like that, well, maybe you're in the right church. But many of the ones I've seen, I think they're just there to lead people astray. I think, like I said earlier, Satan uses deception. So he's using the white as the church, which appears as pure goodness, and the evil, which, is Satan, and appears pure evil. And he wants to push you to a gray that's in between so that you won't be able to make a decision, when the truth is much more simple. He doesn't care about commandments and stuff like that. I mean, Christ really was telling the truth when it's all about what's in your heart. Love the Father more than anything else, and if you love your neighbor as yourself, then you're not going to go out and rob and steal and hurt people in the first place. So get rid of this 10 commandment bullshit. Get back to 2 commandments, and let's start looking at Leviticus like it's a guidebook. It's a guidebook. It shows how much he loves his children. He loves them so much that he wanted to teach them how to be, how to live, how to be safe, how to cook food safely, how to dispose of your bio-waste safely. These are things that you think would be common sense, but you look at 1835 in America, thousands and thousands of people were still dying of malaria because they shit in the street. So with that, I'll close this one because we're getting close to 15 minutes. I love you guys, and if you read this, God bless.